Hey everyone, I want to welcome Megan McCabe to this discussion here on diversity in engineering and technology, as well as cybersecurity. So welcome, Megan, and thanks for taking the time to have this conversation with me. And just wanted to kind of get a sense for what your current role is and what a day in the life looks like for Megan McCabe.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Derek. So I currently lead a technology team in our identity and access management department. So part of cybersecurity is definitely related to IAM, and you'll hear that acronym around the industry. You know, we work with specifically our internal credentials that are required for our employees, as well as our systems and applications that we need to manage. So as part of the technology team, we really are working with the business of IAM as well as the engineering team to drive solutions that are going to help us streamline our processes and move them into the future. Cybersecurity is always changing, so there's a lot of adoption and investigation of new technologies and a lot of meetings around the cloud platforms and how those are changing what we talk about from a legacy data center centric, where we had a controlled network edge that was very much configured by us, to being, you know, much more in the cloud space and really leveraging identity as the edge. So it's really kind of pivoting what we talk about in IAM in a lot of ways. In addition to talking about cloud platforms and new technologies, we're also consulting with our controls and governance frameworks and our risk and control group. So there's a big conversation around risk acumen and really trying to get our partners across the company to understand how to evaluate risk and what's acceptable and what isn't. So we're really in this, you know, area where we get to educate people broadly about security, and then most specifically around how they should apply identity. So it's a pretty interesting team to be in.
And you, I mean, you're a leader, right? You have a team under you. What's your team kind of look like?
So I have, this is the largest team I've had. So I'll tell you a little bit about my history of how I got into this role. But right now, I think my team is about 36 people. And like I said, I'm in the technology space. So we've kind of organized it into technology delivery and support. So I have a team of team managers with product owners that kind of represent the IAM business processes and their journey from end to end and help drive the changes on both sides. So it's working with the business on communication and change management, as well as finalizing the requirements and working with the engineering team to deliver that. So in some of my teams, I actually have the engineering team component, and in other ones, we have the teams kind of matrix in based off of their skills and tool sets. And then, you know, outside of the delivery space, my technology support function really works on two different things. We have production support, which supports our, you know, IAM provisioning systems, as well as our credential systems. And then we also have platform support. So the access constructs for every single platform, from mainframe, Linux, you know, all the things that we've had on-prem for a long time, through Google, Azure, AWS, you know, all of the access constructs in these platforms are different. So we have a platform support team that kind of becomes the experts on how access works within that space. And we really use them, like I said, for that consulting arm of the team, where they're helping new technologies, new applications that are coming in, figure out how to integrate into our access systems. So it's a pretty broad team, but we have a lot of different, you know, types of work that the team members do and a lot of different roles within the team. I've actually only been in the security space for 2.5 years. So I went to a small college for computer science right out of high school. And whenever I told people where I went, they were like, oh, so you're going to be a teacher, because it was very much known as a teacher college. And I was like, no, they have other majors. So that kind of motivated me, that and my mentor at the college, to go to grad school. So right out of my undergrad, I went directly to grad school. I went to Drexel University. They're a bit more known for engineering. And got my master's in computer science to kind of get some more exposure to different opportunities. And that was really great. So I've been at this company since I finished grad school, so almost 15 years. But most of that time was spent in IT. So my first roles were actually a developer for, I think, the first 8 years before I moved into project management, and then eventually people leadership, like you were saying, Derek. And the developer roles were in all different tools. I think if I had to say one language, probably mostly Java, then Python, but across a lot of different business units. So I got exposure to, multiple facets of the company. I actually started at the company because they had a rotational program. And that was pretty interesting to me coming out of grad school, not having a lot of corporate experience, to be able to move around and try different development roles my first 2 years. And then I got into a group that used to be called technology engineering that was a little bit more technical, got exposed to infrastructure, and that kind of started my journey towards security, because a lot of the problems that we deal with in a big corporation like this on the security teams parallel those that support infrastructure. We have to be able to handle the entire enterprise, and it's not really the same as when you're delivering, functionality and capabilities as a developer for one business unit. So, started to get this broad exposure and how complex the problems can be when you have hundreds of systems to consider. So I was there for a few years, and then, like I said, went into project management, worked on a pretty large program, that we spent building new systems in-house for 6 years. And then, was looking to do something different and got into IAM. So, still have a ton to learn about security, but have come a long way in the access management space in the last 2.5 years.
So I've been in leadership for a couple of years, and more than a couple of years, but but one thing I always kind of miss is getting hands dirty coding and things like that. Do you ever find yourself missing just being able to put your head down and write some code?
Definitely. My current outlet for that is my children. So just to get the whole rounded picture, I'm a mom of 3. Coincidentally, they're all boys. Brandon just had his birthday, so they are 8. Nope, not 9. We'll fix that part. So the 3 boys are 7, 9, and 10. And we do a lot of fun engineering type kits together, including ones that do programming. So a couple years ago, I volunteered at it was like a engineering camp for kids, and we used a Raspberry Pi to use Python and build video games with my oldest son. And right now with my younger 2 sons, I am doing a Lego League where we are going to program some Legos to complete missions, build the robots and then move them. So that just started, and that'll run most of the school year. So I find my fixes. There's actually a long list of robots around the house. But I definitely miss it. When I was in grad school, the classes that I found the most fun were like programming the robots. So it's pretty easy to get kids into that piece of it.
Yeah. It's something they can touch and feel and, see immediate feedback from, especially with programming and like with Raspberry Pi, where it's code deploy and it's, moving the way you want it to move. That's a good kind of feedback circle there. So yeah, cool. What's the most rewarding part of your current role? Like, what do you find, gets you kind of motivated?
Yeah, well, like you said, I definitely enjoy leading people. So I'm a very broad network. I really like to spend my time in one-on-one or small group sessions. I really think they're the most impactful. So as a people leader, I get to meet with my direct reports all the time, and seeing them grow and take on new opportunities, I would say, is one of the most rewarding things just for my job overall. Outside of the leadership, if you look at the kind of mission of the department and the role in security, I do find a lot of value in that as well. Whenever you can actually, see the clients directly finding the value out of your work is really nice. In security and access, especially in a big company, a lot of times the controls and risk frameworks is kind of seen as a bit of an impediment. So a lot of the work I do is trying to help streamline the processes for our internal clients that have to go through them, but also really educate them on the value proposition for them to kind of comply with the structures and the security architecture we have in place, and how not only will that help them deliver faster, but for, in a more secure way. So, that value proposition doesn't always work out 100% of the time. And sometimes we can kind of fall in that space where we slow them down a bit. But we know it's the best thing for our external clients that, you know, are putting into this company. So I think that's really important.
Good. So, you know, one of the reasons why I like having these conversations is, you know, I have a young daughter, and you know, I'm always trying to think of ways that so that she can emulate somebody that's in these current roles. And if she decides to go down that path, I mean, she could do whatever she wants. But you know, I think one of the problems is most of the people that are in engineering and in security look like me, and I think that, you know, it would be great to see that change over time. But what do you think for young girls that are looking to get into a career in tech and you know, security or technology? You know, what's some good advice for young girls and women that are trying to get into it?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of programs out there trying to address this issue. It's been an issue for a long time. I remember even when I was in my undergraduates, this is like, you know, 2002 or something like that. We had specialized programs to try to increase the number of women applying to computer science as undergrads. And we would go talk to colleges, to high schools, to try to increase the numbers. So, you know, from the research, what people look at, a lot of programs have come from that. There's still a little, I think, hard to find. You really have to be seeking them out. So I know one that I volunteered for in the past that's kind of local to our area in Pennsylvania is GET, Girls Exploring Tomorrow's Technology. And that's kind of gauged towards middle school girls specifically, because that is where they see kind of the STEAM and STEM drop off for girls for whatever reason. So trying to promote that and have them be able to do that with their peer group is pretty important. Tech Girls was another organization that does a lot of volunteering. They used to have seminars you could join. Now it's all virtual. I think it's, you know, somewhat easier to get that broad access.
Right.
You know, you used to have to commute to local college campuses to kind of go to their different classes. So those are two that I volunteered with, you know, in the last so many years. When I was an undergrad, I also was able to get sponsored by CRAW. So the Computing Research Association will fund research for undergraduate students. And specifically, they have a branch tagged W for women where they seek out women specifically to provide that grant money to. So that was one of the, you know, coolest experiences of my undergraduate, and actually is what gave me the confidence to even like consider going to grad school. It was the first time I was like outside of a classroom construct. I went to the Colorado State University and spent the summer there with a professor who had graduate students doing research. And this was funded by the Department of Defense. So we were doing like scheduling problems, trying to maximize the algorithm that was for satellite communication. So it was, you know, you only have a limited amount of time when a satellite's above a certain spot to communicate data. So it was all about how do you schedule all of the loads. So it's a pretty standard problem in computer science, had a very, you know, applicable, you know, case around it that I could actually see how to apply something that was very theoretical kind of when it was explained back in my, you know, regular studies. And it was an awesome summer just because I got to see that exposure. I got to sit with the grad students and just see what they did day in and day out. And I was really doing like what was probably their homework. Like it was definitely an easier assignment for me as an undergrad, but it was really all about exposure. And when I was out there, they ran a summer camp specifically geared towards women as well. And it was middle school and high school girl students, and we were teaching them like just how to do websites and web design. So, you know, I've definitely come across multiple programs that are targeted towards women. It's just a matter of looking for them. Also, as part of that program, I got to go to Grace Hopper and present the work that I did, which back in, you know, 2000, I don't know what year it was, 2005 maybe, I think I was when I went, or 2004 probably. And they, you know, just seeing that many women together, all related to computer science and engineering, was very motivating and exciting for me. And that conference has only grown since then.
Right.
You know, I can't quote the size, but I know it's much larger now. Right. Back then, I think they had it every 4 years, and it was probably, you know, significantly smaller, but I got to go show that research there. So I feel like that one experience that the CRAW kind of accepted me into, I applied for, and there's multiple repercussions after that are all in the positive direction. So it's a matter of research. It's a matter of getting a good mentor or somebody to support and help advocate for you. Because I wouldn't even apply to that program if my undergrad mentor didn't tell me about it. So things like this are definitely helpful because it gives people ideas and options.
Yeah, no, exactly. Great point. So the toughest question you'll get tonight. So what's your what's a good hobby that you really enjoy?
Well, I did mention I have 3 boys. So generally they take up the vast majority of my free time outside of work. Outside of that, I would say my favorite hobby is probably reading. So I do try to stay up to date. I have 2 book clubs that meet every other month and read just very, very random selection of whatever people pick. I think our current one's called Midnight Driver. I haven't started it yet. It's due in November. Mm-hmm. But outside of the book clubs where we just read stuff for fun, I also do try to read a book related to work once in a while. Current read there is Storytelling with Data. So we've been, busy in planning our 2020 projects, and it's all about having the business case with the data. So it's been a very applicable book that I can use right now at work. But it's also I think telling of the future, right? We have so much more data at our fingertips that it's really much more useful to tell what you want and what you need to get out of a business case if you have the numbers behind it. So this kind of goes over different displays of the same data and shows you how like one chart or layout or whatever can be much more effective than the other, even if it's the exact same data. So that's really interesting to me because I have always been into math and numbers. So I like looking at the raw data in the spreadsheet, which makes a lot of people go cross-eyed. But the pictures are so much easier to like leave it off of, and being able to see, putting effort and time and thought into which picture you choose is actually really important. So it was a good read. I mainly looked at the charts, but that's the one I'm currently in.
Well, but I think I've always tried to do that myself as well, is that you always have to be able to tell a story, right? Because that people are going to remember story more than they're going to remember charts and data and things like that. Like they can see it, they can, the charts and data, they can see it, you can explain it to them, they'll understand it. But if you can put it into something that's more memorable, short, bite-sized type of things that still pull everything together, that's going to be more memorable. And then of course, a lot of times, especially in your position, when you're trying to sell a new idea or making a business plan or something like that, the people that you're talking to about those things typically have short attention spans, and you only get a very short window to be able to convey something. And so being able to put that into something that's easily consumable, I think that goes a long way. So
yeah, being concise is important. And to your point, their calendars are probably even worse than mine, which is saying something, right? Yeah. So you get limited time to really give the context and the ask. So having the data right there is just an important thing to do. So that's the most recent work related book read. But yeah, I don't have too much time for that. I guess baking has been the other big hobby during.
Is that a COVID thing, or was it pre-COVID?
I always baked. You can ask my team. I used to bring in baked goods to our monthly staff meetings back when we were in the office before COVID. So I did always bake, but I actually have been baking a lot more during COVID. I developed an egg allergy, so I've been experimenting with baking because that's kind of a key ingredient to baking.
Yep.
So that's another book I got over COVID, was an eggless cookbook. And I think I'm getting much better at it. I can show you some pictures of brownies that did not turn out well when I first started doing egg substitutes.
Yeah.
They were very bad. But, I think that one's been fun too, because I can do that with the kids. We do monthly family hikes, so that's another fun one, but we can't really commit to it every weekend with all the running around we have to do. So I try to get in one every month, and we've been doing that since 2018. And that makes a really fun collection of pictures to share. That's kind of how I keep the broader family updated on how big the boys are and things like that. So, I mean, definitely busy every day of the week, whether it's a work day or a weekend, but I try to keep the hobbies a little bit balanced.
Good, good. So where can people find you? Where can they connect with you? And yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. I can make sure, I think Derek, you have a link. So you can post it in the YouTube videos. I don't do a ton of social media, so that is probably the one place to connect, but always happy to respond to a direct message. If you guys have any questions or comments about anything I shared, feel free to reach out.
Cool. All right. Well, listen, Megan, thank you for the time today, and really appreciate your insight here. So
Sure.
thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.